Trinity Lutheran Church and School in Joppa, Maryland. Welcome to another episode of Trinity Tech Tour. This one's going to be a little bit different from the ones we've done in the past. Previously, we've had episodes that have kind of focused on individual elements. Today's going to be more of a big picture look, a true tour, if you will. We have a lot of media, commitments here at our church and school where we do a lot of live broadcasting. As a matter of fact, at the moment, we're running at least 9 separate live broadcasts every single week out of here. We also do a lot of traditional video production with pre-production, production, post-production, editing, things like that, whether it be promotional videos, cute little fun shorts, stuff like that. We're going to show you a little bit of how we do that. And then we also have a big commitment to social media. So whether it be, YouTube shorts is something we've really been pushing, or Instagram or TikTok videos, things like that. I'm going to show you a little bit about how we put all those together too. So sit back, relax, and let's take a little tour here of our entire broadcast and studio setup here at Trinity, starting with Studio B. Yeah, we have 2 different broadcast studios here. Our main studio, Studio A, our secondary studio, Studio B. We're going to go upstairs to Studio B and show you how that works and what we use it for. All right, this is Studio B. Now, we're going to go into it in a second, but the first thing you're going to notice out here is we're just upstairs of where we just were. We're the upstairs of the narthex or lobby area. All right, so this is what I like to call our open air studio. Primarily what we use this for is anything where we want to get that crowd noise, that atmosphere noise around us. So this is where we broadcast our pre-service host, for example. Before each 11 o'clock or contemporary service every Sunday, we come on about 10, 15 minutes early, and we have some pre-service hosts who broadcast out of Studio B, and we want to be able to hear the congregation milling about kind of in the background. So that's what we use this for. Now, obviously, for most studio uses, you don't want that ambient noise all around you, so you want to control noise as much as possible. For that, we use Studio A. But for the limited purposes, we use Studio B, and let me show you what it is. Come on in. So Studio B works in conjunction with the setup in the sanctuary, and I'll show you the setup in the sanctuary momentarily. First thing you'll notice is this is our entire control table here. And you'll see there's no computer here. Well, no, because that all runs through the sanctuary. All we have out here in Studio B is we have an old Behringer mixer, which frankly, it's an old analog mixer. It's frankly more mixer than we even need here in Studio B, because we only use 2 inputs for our 2 speakers, our 2 hosts up here, for example. We use Rode Wireless Go microphones. I got one on me right now. We got another one here. And we do have some headset mics that we usually put on them when they're out here to try to minimize a feedback issue. We want to get the mic as close to their mouth as possible, because our pre-service hosts, when they're up here, they're not only going out to our YouTube and Facebook live streams, but they're also showing on the screens downstairs in the narthex and coming out to the speakers down there. So in order to make sure we don't get feedback, we do want to make sure we have to balance that sound very carefully, so the mics aren't picking up the sound coming out of the speakers downstairs. So we do use, when they're on here, we do have these earpiece mics, boom mics, that come in front of their mouths to get that as close as possible. And then we have here a Canon XA30. This is an old camera that we had lying around. We do have the ability here, it's actually not plugged in at the moment, but we do have the ability to run the output from the board directly into this camera. But we also have the output from the board goes into a wall jack and sends the audio into the sanctuary where we actually broadcast from. The video, we don't do that way. The video is actually transmitted wirelessly into the sanctuary. The reason for that is this camera is also what we use whenever we want any roving shots. We call this Rover 1. So if we're going to be doing an event, which we don't usually do during our worship services, but we do for chapels and some other things, where we actually want to get a camera downstairs in amongst the audience and the congregation, then we'll use this. We can disconnect this Canon here and we bring it downstairs. We use a Hollyland Mars HDMI transmitter to send the signal. And then over here we have our pre-service hosts where they actually sit, our talent, so to speak. And Ed Smith, he's our IT carpenter, set designer. He's like everything. He actually custom made this light up our heart and cross logo. And then, of course, we have the screen in the background, and we can change the looks on that. We do have a series of 4 newer LED lights out here, and I'll show you a little bit more about these when we get into Studio A, because we got the same kind of lights in there. But these are really neat. They're all Bluetooth controlled, so we can turn them on, turn them off, set the brightness level, set the color temperature, all through a tablet that we have back in there. It's all Bluetooth controlled, so it's really, really convenient and easy to make some quick changes on the fly when you're there. All right, so now we're inside the sanctuary. This is our tech booth in the sanctuary. You've kind of gotten glimpses of this, and so if you watch some of our previous tech tour videos. Starting out with our top tier Now, generally speaking, your audio is controlled from the top tier, your video is controlled from the bottom tier. It's not a perfect breakdown, but you'll see what I mean. Now, in our top tier of our tech booth, we actually have 4 different computers up here and 1 server, actually. And I'll show you kind of what they're all for, starting with this. This is our in-house audio system. This is the Waves LV1 system. Now, we did a whole video on this on our last episode, so if you want more information about that, check out that video, walks it through it. B.A. Thomas and Ryan McAllister walk you through that in more detail. All of our audio signals here in the sanctuary come into these splitter snakes, and then we have 48 channels in those between the 2 splitter snakes that get split and then come into both the LV1 and also back to Studio A, where we have a Yamaha M7CL, which I'll show you in a minute, all right? So that we can basically have 2 completely independent mixes. And then you come down here, this is the computer we use to run Pro Tools. We use Pro Tools for, well, running tracks if we want to supplement any of our instrumentation or whatever in the worship services. Then we use that here on Pro Tools. It actually communicates through the Waves network, so it sends out via Waves network protocol into the LV1, because the Waves, as I explained in that last video, is a server-based system. Again, I'm not going to go into more detail about that. You can watch another video for that. And we also use Pro Tools. We want to do like multi-track recording. We do record some of our own stuff here. And so we want to do that and record each element separately and then edit it all together. That's what we use Pro Tools for. That is what this computer is completely dedicated to using Pro Tools. Moving on, we also have a Macintosh computer here and our other PC on the end. These actually work in conjunction with each other. This PC is our ProPresenter computer. This, again, pretty much exclusively we use this for ProPresenter. ProPresenter sends out our slides. So we have one look that we send to our main screens, and also we have 3 television monitors that face the stage. The 2 on the outside mirror what's on the main screens. And the center monitor is our stage display, or confidence monitor. So that's 2 of the looks that ProPresenter sends out. It also sends out, we can set a separate look to our lobby, our Narthex televisions. We're not using that so much right now because we're actually sending our broadcast mix through Wirecast, I'll show you in the lower level, out to our Narthex monitors right now. And then also it actually sends our graphics to our video switcher. So our lower third graphics, we have some picture-in-picture stuff we do. So every slide has different looks assigned to it depending on where it's being sent. This Macintosh computer also works in conjunction with ProPresenter. We have a video input set up on ProPresenter that is basically a screen capture of this Macintosh. It communicates through an NDI. And so if we want to, for example, put a live interactive website up on the screen to demonstrate how a website works or something like that, we can use that video input here on ProPresenter to mirror this image and the screen, rather, and then we just pull up, Google, Chrome, or whatever on this screen, whatever we want to show. You can also use it for video conferencing. Let's say I want to bring someone in to speak via Zoom. All right, well, I can bring up Zoom on the Mac, use the NDI to the video input over here on the ProPresenter computer to bring up that image onto the screens. Then the people in the congregation can see whatever's on this computer screen. They can see a person talking through Zoom, for example. All right, so this is the lower level of our tech booth, whereas we do our video broadcast is primarily based out of here. Whereas on the top level, we had 4 computers, and like I said, mostly audio plus slides. On the lower level, we only have 1 computer, but we got a lot of hardware components. Starting with, first thing I'll notice is last time we did a video that showed our lower level, we were all on folding tables, and I said we were working on getting a permanent desk. Yay, we have a permanent desk down here now. Also last time we were controlling our PTZ cameras through an iPad tablet, whereas now you'll see we have the PTZ Optics controller. But this PTZ Optics joystick controller is far superior to the iPad setup we had before in the app, just because you can control things like you do some color corrections on here, some brightness corrections, things like that on the fly with this controller. It's much more versatile, gives you a lot more control over your PTZ cameras and the looks you get from them than the iPad app did. Our camera operator here also has their own multi-view monitor so they can see where all the cameras are seeing. All right, then as we move along back here, this entire setup is for our video switcher, all 4 of these monitors. This is, like Houston, I have a problem. We've got a whole bunch of, obviously they have their own large multi-view monitor where they can see what's coming through all of the cameras. This monitor right here is actually a mirror of the Pro Presenter computer up there. It allows whoever's doing the video switching to have a good idea where we are in the service, like how close are we getting to the end of a song, because they may need to switch from a lower third look to like a picture-in-picture look or something after the song ends. So they're going to want to have some heads up and warning to know how much time they have before that's going to happen, so they can get that set, make sure they get that set up. Having a mirror of the Pro Presenter computer's monitor helps them see that and visualize that. The next monitor is where we actually run the ATEM software control. And then, of course, on this far right monitor is a secondary monitor for the computer. So the computer actually has two monitors hooked up to it. One we run the ATEM on. The secondary monitor is where we run Wirecast, which is how we do our encoding. And we also can pull up, YouTube and Facebook and our Chrome on that monitor as well. We do use Wirecast for a number of reasons. People have asked why we do software encoding instead of hardware encoding. I really like Wirecast, and we did use OBS. We had some issues with OBS, but you can do a lot of the stuff with OBS too, where basically we have different shots. And so if I want to send out something different online than what I'm sending in-house, then I can select different shots down here for what I want to send them. The other thing that Wirecast allows us to do is set up another kind of virtual monitor. And so we're actually sending our Wirecast signal out to the narthex TVs as well, so that people who are in the lobby can actually not just see what's on the slides in here, but they can actually see our final broadcast with the video and all the lower third graphics and everything like that as well out there on those TVs, if they're out there with a crying kid or who knows what it is. Welcome to Studio A. This is our primary broadcast studio. This was a major project we had finished up last year. This all used to be a hallway, and it was converted into a broadcast studio for a variety of different purposes. What we're standing in right now is the control room / editing bay, and then the actual studio itself with the cameras and everything is over on the other side. Going to give a real quick tour so you can see everything we've got set up here. We're going to start behind you over here at my workstation. So we have a total of 3 different, technically I guess 4 different workstations here in the studio. This is the media director station. And as you can see, we work on a Mac-based system because we use Final Cut Pro for our video editing. Frankly, making the decision between using Premiere and Final Cut came down to the fact that with Premiere, I had to pay a monthly subscription. With Final Cut, I could pay one fee and put it on all of our computers, and we don't have to pay again. So that's kind of what it came down to for us. I like them both, but that's why we use an Apple-based system here for our video editing. So all of our workstations, we have 4 Mac computers that all have Final Cut Pro on them. So if any one of the 4 workstations here, you can work on editing projects. At my workstation here, I've got 2 monitors, my main monitor, which I just use to mirror my Mac, MacBook Pro. This secondary monitor over here, right now I have it set up, we can have it set up on HDMI 2 input to show the multi-view of all the cameras out there in the sanctuary. And the reason we have that is if I wanted to, from this computer, I can also remotely access just about every computer up here in the tech area, including the computer we use out in the sanctuary tech booth to do the video switching from. So theoretically, you could do the video switching either from out there in the sanctuary or from in here in this, the tech booth. The disadvantage of doing it in here is that's such a large space. Even with the multi-view, you don't necessarily get a good picture of what's going on around you. Sometimes you just kind of have to look over the railing and see what's going on down there to tell your camera operator what to capture and what not to. So it's not as advantageous out here, in here, but it can be done, all right? And then I can also switch this to just being a secondary monitor for the computer as well, if I want to. Over here, I've got our lone PC back here. That's not true. We have one other PC back here in the studio. But this is my Surface computer, Surface Pro, that we use for occasionally you need a PC. For example, if somebody sends me a publisher document, all right, I can't pull that up on the Mac. I got to pull that up on the PC. So I mentioned at the top of the video that we also, in addition to, during our live broadcasting, which I'm showing you some of in our actual standard video production, which I've told you we use Final Cut Pro to do our editing for that. We also do a lot of social media stuff, and that's kind of what Sarah's bailiwick here is. So this is the social media workstation, if you want to call it. This is where she makes our TikTok videos and Instagram videos and unique little social media posts and things like that. For those, she uses, your phone, right? pretty much. Yeah, she just uses her phone to film those, because as much as it annoys me as a guy who grew up in video production, apparently the thing now is to film videos like this and not this. Annoys the heck out of me, but young people like it that way. So there you go. I do what I'm told, what she tells me to do in that regard. All right. The rest of the control room, just, these are our other two bays. All right. This is B.A. Thomas, our associate media director, who you saw in the last video and who's behind the camera right now. This is his workstation. He basically does mostly video editing and stuff here. He controls our weekly announcement videos and things like that. So this is what he'll work on at his workstation. And then over here is mission control. Okay. This is, first of all, what we have set up here is our computer base. This is where our one PC is down here, and there's another Mac. This Mac was just a refurbished one. The screen didn't work, so we can use this up here as our screen for it. But this is where we both control any broadcasts or recordings we're doing here in the studio, and also we can see what's going on out there in the sanctuary. So right now, the way this is set up for recording here in the studio. So if we have someone in there who's filming, we use OBS in here, and we have on our computer, we have our OBS monitor right here. And then we actually monitor what's going out through a separate computer. So we want to watch the actual YouTube stream to make sure it's working correctly, or the Facebook stream. We don't do that on the same computer that we're actually broadcasting from. Again, it's just the principle to try to keep as much processing power off the computer as possible so you don't risk affecting the stream at all, the quality of your stream at all. And so that's what we use this Mac for, is this, in addition to being another editing bay, we actually use this, and we'll pull up Restream and YouTube Studio on this so we can watch our stream here while sending it out through OBS over here at this computer. And then this monitor down here is just a multi-view. We have an ATEM Mini Pro you can't really see back here, which is what we do our video switching on here in the studio. These monitors we can actually do different things with. Like this computer here can also, if I minimize this and bring up this, remember I told you that on my computer I can remotely access virtually any other computer here, including the live streaming computer. This computer can also remotely access that live streaming computer. And the advantage that gives is that whoever's we control our live stream mix here, which I'll talk about in a second on our M7CL, but whoever's doing our live stream mix can also see Wirecast, which gives him the overall output level. So he can see what the dB level is that we're sending out, because we kind of have our goal for where we want that to be that we know sounds good. And so in addition to seeing everything he's sending from the board, he can see what the actual output level is that's going out over the stream to adjust the level on the board if necessary. So that's kind of neat there. And the other thing we could do when we're doing a live broadcast from the sanctuary and doing our live stream mix in here, we have a little AB switch back here where we can switch this monitor so that it actually shows the multi-view as well from out there. So that whoever's in here doing your stream mix can see the Wirecast output, can see the camera so they know what's going on in the sanctuary as well. And then they do their mixing here through the M7CL. Now, the Yamaha M7CL is a great board. It's an older board. This is what we used to have out there in the sanctuary for our in-house mix. And when we decided we wanted to completely separate and do an independent stream mix, completely separate from the LV1 that's out there, we said, hey, we've got this M7CL lying around. Let's bring it in here and hook it up. So that's where we use those splitter snakes to split every single signal, so that we have it going into both the LV1 and separately coming in here to the M7CL. And then we have different sends on here. We have one send set up just for if we're using this as our studio. So it has the microphones in there and everything that we use on it. And then we have another send that we call our YouTube send, which is a stereo send, where we can actually control all of the inputs and do our own unique EQing, mixing, and everything. We have monitor speakers up here. And this little mini board you see up here, this little Behringer Xenix board, this is a really neat thing that we use strictly for our monitors. It allows us to control what we have coming out through the speakers. We can, through one dial, just monitor what's coming out through the M7CL, just like you would any other monitor. So if you want to, for example, queue up a particular input, you've got to make sure that your monitor speakers are set to listen to what's coming out through directly from the M7CL. The problem is the M7CL isn't the end of the signal chain. From here, it sends it to our ATEM Television Studio HD switcher I showed you out there. And then from there to the computer, and then it sends it out over the stream. And really, to maximize stream quality, audio quality, we want to be able to monitor from as close to the end of that signal chain as possible. So we also have a setting on this little board where you can listen to the audio from that computer out there in the sanctuary. So you can turn down the M7CL audio, turn up, we call it Black Widows, we call that computer out there. And now the audio you're hearing through these speakers is after any processing that anything does to it, so you know you're hearing the same thing that the people at home are going to be hearing through these speakers. And the other cool thing is we have a little Bluetooth receiver down there too, so we can crank tunes from our computers and have them come out through here too. We'll move over here into the studio itself. I will say that before we go, we do have 3 PTZ cameras in there as well. And that old iPad that we used to use out in the sanctuary, we now have in here, so we can control the PTZ cameras remotely from this iPad. It still also controls the one in the sanctuary. So remember I was telling you we could do the entire broadcast from here in the studio if we wanted to, because we can remotely access those computers. We can also remotely control those cameras out there in the sanctuary from in here just using this iPad. All right, moving into the studio side of things. So this is the actual broadcast studio itself where our talent goes. We have a raised platform. This platform is actually modular. It's just underneath that carpet, it's just some pallets. And so literally this whole thing comes apart. So if you wanted to do something where people weren't sitting down but they were standing up, in order to have our little cross background and everything there line up a little bit better, you don't want them up too high, that whole stage comes out relatively easily and you can have them standing up there. Most of what we do has people sitting here behind the desks. That's why we leave that stage set up. All right. Now, we do have in here a number of lighting options. We have those same LED lights that I showed you in Studio B, but they're up above. Same thing, we can control them all through Bluetooth. We have a neat little, just a Samsung tablet that we have that's called the Newer. These are all Newer lighting systems. So we can pull up the Newer app on this and we can control the color temperature, the intensity of all of these lights throughout the studio. We also have an app called Govee that controls the LED lights on our cross and heart logo back there so that we can change the colors. We can turn it on and off. We can change the colors that are on that. See, I just turned it off, on again. And you can change it. It has all sorts of different options. You can make it, flash, blink. You can have it change colors. It can be a gradient. It can be a solid color, whatever we want to do. We can control all of that remotely as well through Bluetooth. And the last cool thing is we actually have Bluetooth lights over each of our desks too. We can change the color temperatures and everything like that all through the tablet that we control that. Our 3 PTZ cameras are all here mounted on the wall. The only thing we're missing in the studio that I still need to get, well, maybe not the only thing, but the next thing I want to get is we don't have tally lights in here. We do have tally lights in the sanctuary. We don't have tally lights in here yet, so we need to work on that. We do have a green screen on the wall as well that we use on occasion. You have to reposition the lights and everything to get that to work right. But we actually could do essentially a mini news broadcast from in here with your news anchors up here and then your weather person over here, and we've done stuff like that before too. If you have any specific questions about things, throw them down there in the comments section. We'll be happy to try to answer them for you. Go ahead and give us a like if you like this video. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We got a lot of other Trinity Tech Tour videos that are actually on the channel, so you want to see some of these things in more detail, I invite you to go back and take a look at those. We appreciate it. All right? Until next time, God bless.